y'all, it's Carol, and I am working on a magical little tree today. Just the reason I say magical is because the lights appear like magic. I didn't really do a drawing, and I don't recommend it because we don't want a lot of pencil lines, but I did hint by just, you probably can't see this very well because I barely touched. I just hinted to my basic shape, saying this is where I want my tree to be and the size I want it. Sometimes if you don't give yourself a little bit of a reference, you're going to wind up with like nothingness. This is where I'm going to do something unusual. I tore a paper towel into the shape of a tree. It's a little too fat right there. Shape of my tree. And the reason for that is I want to create the background without messing with the sizing that's on my paper. The sizing is what's going to let the magic happen with the lights when I put the color on. And if I overdo it by putting a bunch of water and different things on it, then I've loosened up that sizing so that it's no longer going to do what I want. And I do want some reflections on the outside of the tree, which are not going to happen if I don't have some yellow out here. I want lots of movement so that my yellow is almost creating some starry-like reflections out here. If it's not moving enough, spritz it some more. And we are going to put just a little bit of ultramarine, just a little bit out here. I don't want it to touch my yellow very much. Hopefully it won't. You never know. Just a little bit, just to hint that there is some sky, maybe night sky or something out here. Should have taped my paper down. It's kind of raising up a little bit. Sorry about that. Tape it after this dries, or so we need this layer to dry before we come back in for our next layer. We could put in a little more blue later, but I don't want it to run into this yellow. If I want more blue, I can add it later on, which I probably will. This is a fairly loose painting, so we don't really need a whole lot of detail. And just letting the blue sort of flow and do its thing is working for me. I want a little more water on that yellow right there. Helps if you spray the right area. And I want to bring it in just a little. So I'm going to remove my paper towel. And I'm going to bring that glow in just a little bit. Since it's not wet, I can do that now, because the inner part is not wet. I'm not worried about it affecting my sizing too much because I'm only coming to about where the branches are going to be coming. Now see how that gives a nice little glow? Now I'm going to let it dry, probably for about 10 or 15 minutes. I did tape it down to help us a little bit. While this is drying, I'll tell you what brushes I'm using. I think they're all Princeton's. That's just what they have at Jerry's. That's a pretty decent quality and not breaking the bank. Yep, Princeton 8 round, Princeton 1/2 inch angled, which doesn't have to be angled, but let's see, a 12/0 Princeton fan. It's a very tiny fan, and a 2-inch round, or a number 2 round. So that's what the brushes that I'm using for this. I may or may not use this. That's in case I want to glaze the sky after the rest of it dries. I think this is dry enough to do what I need to do next, because I want it completely dry before I decide to glaze, if I want to glaze the sky a little bit. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to protect that from this wetness that I'm about to spray in the middle, but I do want the middle a little bit wet before I add the color. It just flows better, and I won't have to brush it as much, which, like I said, the brushing moves the sizing, and the sizing is moved too much. We won't get this starlight effect that we're going for. So I'm just spritzing it, not pouring it on. That keeps me from having to wet the to put the paint on too wet, because if it's too wet, then it takes too long to set. If it takes too long to set, then you're not going to have time to do your wonderful little tree lights. And that's what we're going for here, is tree lights. I'm going to get the middle painted really fast. Sorry, my timer was going off. Now you could just let the ends go wild like it's doing right there. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to come in with my fan brush and help it along a little bit. Okay, I'm doing it quickly. I've got some sap green that has been softening up for me, so that I come do some little branches on the exterior. Because we need that interior part that we did, the dark green, we need it to start setting up a little bit. We don't want it too dry, and we don't want it too wet. If I twist my brush in different shapes, then I get more tree-like structures, more pine needle type shapes. If I just do the same thing, it's going to look a little, fake. See how see how the fan brush just helps give it this pine needle and type shape that we want. And you can put some of this color in the middle right now if you want to. Okay, good enough. I don't want to work it too much. Let's see if that's at the right point. You don't want any puddles, but you do want it to be shiny wet, okay? It's very important. It has to be shiny wet, but without puddles. I have softened up this lemon yellow. Gotta get a new sprayer. I've softened up this lemon yellow for quite some time, so that I had a fairly thick lemon yellow going on. Yeah, that's the right. That's what you want. You want it fanning out. And that can only be done while it's at this shiny stage. Once it starts to dry, it's going to move a little, but it won't move much. So the more, if the other part is, if you put it on too soon while it's too wet, then it just sort of blends out to nothingness, and you don't get the star or the lights. The edges are always a little drier, so I'm trying to do them a little sooner. Now you can come in with a darker yellow at this point. The lemon yellow is the one that moves. It has I don't know what the quality is. I'm sure they told me in art school, but I don't know what the quality is, but it will move other colors out of the way. Could be the binders that are in it. I don't know. But it will move colors. And so that's why I used it and put it down first. But if you want it a little bit warmer, with this more yellowy tone, you can add another yellow, which in my case happens to be New Gamboge, but you could use any medium yellow, bright yellow. And once that lemon yellow has started pushing out the other color, then you can put your extra color in the middle there. Now it's starting to dry, but that's okay. Some of my dots are going to be that one just dried a little too much, not even moving at all. So what I might do is pick it up, wet this area just a little bit. Hopefully it hasn't dried enough that I can't move anything. Oh yeah, that worked. Okay, that doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Now, you keep putting color in the middle. Remember, only in the middle, because it will continue to move out and make your little lights brighter and brighter and brighter. Clean your brush every now and then if you think you picked up any green. You could add white into this, but I did test that and I didn't really like the way it looked. So if I want white in there, what I can do is add a little white stars in the middle of these once it dries. Okay, it's starting to not move very much. If it's not moving very much, that means you want to get done. Otherwise, you'll have very obvious dots right in the middle of these things. So you want to be putting it in there while it's still moving, and then stop putting them in there when it stops moving. I'm going to try what I did with that lower one with this right here and see if that works. I don't know if it will. It's always nice to be able to fix a mistake if you can. Because I've got color that's soaked into the paper now, it's not moving as well, but at least it's moving a little bit. So I can save that light right there. If I think it's still moving, I'm putting a little light in the middle. Okay. I guess I splattered a little bit of green out there. There we go. Okay, right now I want to darken the sky just a little bit, just because I was going to put some snow on this too. A little Prussian blue might make it look more nighttime-y. If that's a word. I don't know. I should pre-wet this. Okay. Oh yeah, that's better. Sometimes you just need it a little darker if you're going to have some snow. You want that sky to be, you want your reflection to still be out there, but you want your sky to be a little bit darker around your reflections from your lights. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is brush along the edges just to help that blend in a little better. That's better. I was cleaning it up just so it didn't have any stark lines against my tree. If you pre-paint this entire background and let it dry 100%, doing your second layer on the background first, it'd probably be easier, but I didn't do that, so what's done is done. At this point, while our stars are drying, I can, if I'm careful and I'm using thicker paint so that it's not water flowing, I can add some shadows in between those. Now, if it's very wet, it's going to start flowing into those stars. So you may not want to risk it if you're not pretty comfortable with this brush. But you can add a little bit of tree-like pine needle type shapes in between your stars, which just helps with our overall impression. I'm going to go ahead and put some snow down here at the bottom. Shadows of snow, rather. The snow is kind of there because it's white, right? Little Payne's Gray just to give a little bit of deeper shadow in certain, especially right under the tree. If you want to add a few extra little touches here and there to look a little more like branches coming out, then you can do that at this point. I'm just moving my brush in a wavy pattern to appear to be branches and to appear to be pine needles. You don't have to do this. I just was looking at it and I thought I want some things sticking out. I don't want everything perfectly even. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add a very bright little light right up here, which we can go ahead and just give it our little beams, so to speak, since it's already got a little bit of a reflection from the yellow that we put down. And we can always put a little more of that down in a little bit. And I want to put just a tiny bit of warmth in the middle of that light. I'll wipe most of that out because I got way too much on it. Just a little bit of warmth right in the middle, like it might be a golden colored ornament. You know, a little star or something up there. Okay, at this point, if you choose, you can take your fine, well, this is probably not fine enough. Let me see if I've got a very tiny liner. Ooh, that one's too light. Too tiny. Okay, this is what's called a, it's also a Princeton. This is what's called a liner. They also call it a rigger brush. I don't know where that came from. I'm going to grab some of my Bleedproof white. I'm just going to test it on one of them and see if I want to do this. Yeah, I guess it'll be all right. I'm just doing T's and X's in the middle, like it's the light bulb, you know. Every now and then you'll have one that puts out a bigger light. I'm picking up some color with this brush, so I gotta clean it off a little bit, come back. That's kind of cool, actually. Sometimes it has to grow on you, right? You just got to test something and see if you like it or not. Now, the reason I can do this is because this brush is a rigger brush has a very fine point. If this did not have a very fine point, I don't think it would look right. So I think that's probably important. A few of them are just a little shinier than others, which is on purpose. So, okay. Well, I kind of like that. I think other than adding just a little more shadow down at the base under the tree, I think it needs to be just a little bit darker. And sometimes if you wait for it to dry, you can add that little bit of extra darkness under the tree without it drying way too light on you. I am going to add a little more glow right around that star. Just by moisturizing or just by moistening the edge, and then putting a little bit of my yellow in here, and it was going to flow out into that water that I just put in. There, isn't that nice? I think that turned out really cool. Not too complicated. Takes a little bit of time, but not a lot of skill. Just remember, the trick is you don't want this to have time. You don't want the green to have time to dry, but you don't want any puddles. So try to moisten it very evenly so that you don't have puddles, because then you'll just have big cauliflowers. And then continue pressing the dots until they're not moving anymore. You keep adding yellow paint until they're not moving anymore. Pretty cool. I forgot to set the camera for the snowflakes. So all I did is I took some P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White, watered it down a little bit so that it was nice and wet. You test it over to the side, make sure you've got the size you want, and then you can put it on your painting. I didn't want to withdraw away too much attention from my little lights. I just really wanted some snow on this. And that's how you put it on. You just tap it on something. Test it first to make sure the size is right. If you hit it too hard, you get like these streaks. Okay, so you don't want to hit it too hard. Just tap gently straight down like that, and you will get your little snowflakes. Well, thanks for joining me. I'm so glad you did. I hope you painted through this, or at least inspired yourself to go and start up another painting. Don't forget to check out paintingtogether.com for my courses, and also carolrobinking.com, where I have originals and art prints, as well as my acrylic art kits that include everything, including a video that you can watch to help you get the painting done. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 10 of the 12 Days of Christmas.